Hey there, I'm John. Welcome back to Reddit Aliens. What is the creepiest folklore or legend from the area you're from? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Filipino here. There are islands in the Philippines that are called Monster and Witch Island, where inhabitants are demon-blooded, so to speak. You can tell one if your reflection in their eyes is upside down. There are precautionary tales of pregnant women should not meet them, as unborn babies are the favorite food of said monsters, where the women will wake up in a pool of blood the next morning, not before hearing a tick-tick sound. In reality, the tick-tick sound is what a local lizard sound makes. The folktale is to explain away why miscarriages happen. Here in Mexico, we have a ghost story wherever you go. Not any city. I guarantee you that every neighborhood has some kind of haunted house, building, or place. The creepiest I know of was La Niña del Parque Eroes, the girl from the Eroes Park in, Agua Calientes, Mexico. As the name implies, she's the ghost of a little girl who appears in the night. She just asks you if you want to play with her, while holding her head with her two hands. I live in Kansas, and really the only remotely interesting folklore we have here is Stoll Cemetery, the cemetery that is supposedly a gate to hell. It appears in the show Supernatural, so I guess we've got that going for us. Here in Quebec, Canada, we got the Wendigo. It's basically a human turned beast after some cannibalism, and now he stays in the forest with a never-ending hunger and keeps searching for lost humans to kill them and eat them. Growing up in Denmark, you heard of the Nisse, a jolly Yuletide elf who lives in haylofts on farms. This festive critter must be paid his due, a bowl of rice porridge with butter, sugar, and cinnamon on Christmas Eve. Otherwise, you'd fall victim to his tricks, which could range from curdling your cow's milk, breaking your leg, or murdering you and your family in a funny way. I remember putting bowls of porridge in the hayloft and even the attic one year when it was too cold to go outside. I wonder if this is similar to, at least in my childhood growing up, leaving cookies and milk out for Santa. Only he wouldn't murder you. He would probably just eat more at the neighbors. Mo Sin A, demonic god, or sometimes called the Girl in Red, is a Taiwanese ghost monster spirit. There's no clear definition what it actually is. There are multiple different appearances of it: a short, small girl in red clothes, a tall and white-skinned woman with makeup. According to legends, it lives in mountains, is familiar with nature and the landscape. It likes pulling pranks on the weak, lures old people into mountains, feeding them with dirt, grass, cow poop, disguised as tasty meals. But it doesn't hurt them, so the victims are almost always found unharmed with no clue what really happened. They're usually found the next day in some weird but obvious place that the search team wonders how they missed it the day before. There is one incident where an old lady was kidnapped. When she was found, she said the demon is gone. An old couple came and gave her food, told her where to hide from rain, and kept chatting to comfort her, and left before the rescue team found her. These couple are said to be the local protecting spirit, and his wife protecting the old lady from being harmed. What's fascinating is, these stories have been around for centuries and still happen today. Many even claim to witness one. Indian here. In the capital of India, New Delhi, there's been an urban legend for a particular borough of the city. It's called Delhi Cantonment Area. The urban legend goes like this. Once, there was a mother with her child. She was once crossing the street at night and was unfortunately run over by a vehicle. Different versions have different vehicles. She was flung away from her child. She crawled to her child only to find out he had passed away. She died before she could even reach him. It's said that her spirit haunts the area starting from 11 p.m. A friend told me a story that happened with his uncle there. His uncle was driving a scooter, like a moped at night, going back home from work. He saw a lady who gestured for a lift. He stopped beside her and asked her. She told him that she needed a lift till her neighborhood. He agreed since he just wanted to help a lady out in need. After some distance, she asked him to drop her. He wished her good night and went on his way. After some distance, he spotted another lady asking for a lift. That lady was also wearing a sarai, traditional drape, but he couldn't recognize her face. She told him the same thing, and he helped another person. Again, he wished her good night and went on his way. While driving away, he had a cold shiver running down his spine. The realization was starting to dawn over him, but hadn't quite yet. After some distance, he saw a lady again asking for a lift, but this time he pretended not to see her and kept driving. He kind of increased his speed a bit to hurry home sooner. After some distance, something caught his peripheral vision. He turned his head on his side to see the same woman running parallel beside him. She was looking straight in his eyes with a huge grin on her face. He was so shell-shocked, he twisted his wrist and went full acceleration at around 100 kilometers per hour. After some moments, he went unconscious. When he woke up, it was around 5:30 a.m. or so. The sun was coming out, and there was a person who woke him up. He asked him if he was okay. The person told him that he found laying on the footpath beside his scooter. He asked him whether he met with an accident or something. My friend's uncle looked around and bite mark wounds on his thigh and calves. He had bled, but it was dry now. The blood had clotted already. He found scratches on his helmet and some damage to the scooter. He never took that route at night, so yeah, that was kind of a crazy story. Filipino here. This folklore just makes me scared to go outside at night alone. The tikwi is a creature that makes sounds in the night. It rips its other half of its body at night and then flies to look for victims. It makes sounds like tikwi. What makes this creature's victims think they are safe is the way it makes their sound fainter and fainter to make it sound like they are now far away from the creature. But it's the opposite. The farther away they sound, the closer they are to their victims. The Tennessee Wild Man. Basically, either a Bigfoot or in some versions a feral human that is pushing 7 to 8 feet tall. Legend has it that a carnival barker in the early 1900s caught him in a cage and was putting him on display until he broke out and got away. A lot of the rumors are from East Tennessee near the Smokies. I've also heard that during the Civil War, some families decided they didn't want to fight and retreated into the mountains far away from where the army could find them, and over time have reverted to being feral humans. Assumed inbreeding has made recessive genes very prominent, making them large and hairy. A Josh Gates expedition on Expedition X found human hair in a cave near some small animal bones that had been torn apart, and their decision was basically just, yeah, sometimes people just decide to go live in the wilderness and go wild. Some park rangers in the Smokies will candidly tell you they believe it too. There were a couple of sightings during the 80s of a large, hairy, red-eyed, bipedal human-like thing grabbing farm animals and running off into the woods with them. And a few years ago, a couple hiking in the Appalachians on the North Carolina side of the Smokies said they saw something similar. One of the families near where Dennis Martin went missing also said they saw a huge, hairy man with a kid under his arm running straight up near a vertical cliff shortly after Dennis went missing as well. Technically not folklore, but one time I was sleeping over at my friend's house. We must have been about 5 or 6 years old, and we were being really loud around 1 a.m. Friend's older brother was getting real tired of our shit, so he came in, shut off all the lights, switched on his flashlight, and told us the story that he made up right then and there on the spot. The story of the 2 o'clock phantom. Basically, the phantom was this 60-foot tall man who walked around the neighborhood peeking in windows at night, and if anyone was still awake at 2 a.m., he'd effing eat them. It sounds dumb as shit, but I believed it for years, and it scared the living F out of me. Suffice to say, we all went to bed pretty quick that night. A story from Bengal, India. There's a spirit known as Nishir Dak, or Call of the Night. The story goes around basically that the spirit goes around at night and knocks at doors. It mimics your loved one's voices of your friends' voices and asks to open the door. Whoever does open it dies. However, there's a way to escape its hunt. The Nishi only knocks 3 times, so if someone knocks at your door late at night, people have the habit of waiting for the 4th knock. Beware if you ever step foot in India, and at night, if someone knocks at your door, it might be the Nishi. Tribeca are paranormal highlands right next to my city. It's a set of hills and forests. Many people disappeared there under unclear circumstances, only to reappear in entirely different places, often dead or really effed up. People who were alone and decided to use a shortcut road through the forest often disappeared. There was even a movie and novel made about the area. Shit is scary. Squirrel Cage Girl. It was a jail here in Iowa that's supposed to be haunted because they were using these unusual cells that like round rooms that rotated to close them, and a ton of prisoners died either from trying to get out at last second and getting crushed, or the multiple times the cells malfunctioned that the inmates starved. In Camden County, South Jersey, there's a town called Atco that has had the ghost story known as the Atco Ghost. Original, I know, lol. Legend has it that a boy was playing with a ball and the ball rolled into the street. The boy went to chase after the ball and a truck driver ran him over, killing him. They say if you go to the end of the same road at night, turn off your car's engine and blink your headlights on and off 3 times, you'll see the spirit of the boy cross the road. I've personally never done it because when the legend got really popular in the early 2000s, police started watching the area. I've known people that have done it and claimed to have seen it, and others that didn't. My sister did it with a group of her friends a few times and claimed to have seen it. Another group of friends of mine claimed they didn't see anything, but when they got out of their car, they saw child handprints on their car. Though the details are slightly different, we have something similar where I'm from, where it's headlights on a gravestone and blah 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 blah. Do you have anything like that in your area? Kind of urban legends that move from town to town? Bulgarian here. Living people being walled up in every single piece of construction built before the outbreak of science on our territory. Oh, that nice bridge you're standing on? There's probably a skeleton inside it. It was believed a sacrifice was necessary. Here in Poland, there was the legend of a black Volga. It was basically a black Volga car with white tires driven by, depending from the source, nuns, priests, Jews, Russian mafia, Satanists, or even Satan. It would kidnap kids, drain off blood from their bodies, and sell it as a cure for leukemia to rich Germans. It's very specific. In northern Minnesota, there's a small town called Thief River Falls. Nearby Dead Man's Trail remains a pretty famous Minnesotan legend. Story is that a Native American woman's baby was one day carried away and dragged into the falls by a raging river, and the woman's spirit walks around wailing. All the people I know that have been there, including myself, do remember hearing some type of crying type noise, as well as chills, or maybe that's just our brains adding to the creeps from the desolate place. Who knows? Malaysian legend, Orange Minyak, which directly translates to oil people, but it's oil man. Basically a man covered in slippery liquid that goes around raping and harassing teenage girls or virgin women. Before this, I didn't think it was creepy, but apparently my aunt has a story about him. When she was in university, she was staying in a dorm with her friends in a 3-story building. It could fit 2 people per room. My aunt stayed on the ground floor. There was news that there had been sightings and a case of the Orange Minyak going around. Out of fear, my aunt and her dorm mate and all the other girls moved on the 3rd floor to sleep. There were 8 of them, 2 on each bed and 4 on the floor. The next morning, while they were cleaning up the mattresses on the floor, they had noticed a footprint that hadn't been there before, and the girl sleeping on it was feeling a pain around her area. And of course, there's Pontianak. It's a Southeast Asian urban legend. We have a winding forest road called Hicks Road, where it is rumored that albinos have a colony and attack people at night. No idea why this legend has been around so long, but most people living in South San Jose know it. I think it's mainly local mountain folk scaring away dumb teenagers. Here in Kentucky, we have a supposed ghost at a university called the Blue Lady Ghost. There's a plaque dedicated to it in front of the building and everything. The story goes that there was a young university drama teacher who was cheated on by her lover. She was so upset that she hung herself at the bell tower of a building on campus. They say you can see her sometimes at night, and she comes out when the wind starts to blow forcefully. At least that's what I've heard. When I was a kid and used to go on walks with my dad on campus, we would search for her. I remember trying to see between the curtains just for a glimpse of her. The Donkey Lady, San Antonio, Texas. By far the oldest urban legend they have. My dad said he learned about it in the 60s. There's a lot of variations of the story depending on where you look, but here's the gist. There was a family on a farm, husband, wife, and 2 kids. One night there's a fire. When everyone is asleep, some version of this story say the fire was caused by an intruder. Mother wakes up and panics. She wakes up her husband. They notice the fire is coming from upstairs. Husband runs upstairs to try to save them. Wife waits outside for them to come down. They never do. The wife decides to run up to try to save them, but when she gets up there, her husband and children are dead. At this point, it's too late for the lady, and she's burned alive. By some miracle, she survives, but is badly burned. Her facial features are burned off, her hands and feet are burned so bad, all she has left are nubs, which now look like hooves. Her throat and vocal cords are burned so bad that she can't speak. She can only make disturbing breathing sounds that sound like a donkey. There's an old bridge in San Antonio that leads to her house. The bridge is blocked off, so no car can drive down it. You have to go on foot if you want to cross the bridge. That part is true. Legend says if you go there at night on foot, you will hear her disturbing donkey noises. This is a warning. Keep going, and she will assume you started the fire and kill you. True story. When I was about 16, 17 years ago, it was Halloween, and my buddies and I wanted to do something scary. Someone mentioned the Donkey Lady, so we decided to go to the bridge. When we arrived, there was already a car there. No one was inside, so we ignored it and jumped the bridge's gate. Sure enough, we heard the donkey sounds clear as day. We were shocked with disbelief. Then out of nowhere, some dude wearing a Hollywood quality makeup comes charging at us. My buddy, who was a tough wrestling champion at our school, screamed like a little girl, lol. The guy charging at us felt so bad he immediately dropped his character and turned on a flashlight to show it was just makeup, lol. Good times. A couple of my favorites from places I've traveled to are La Llorona, crying woman, Mexican origin, who was a ghost of a woman who drowned her kids, and La Quintrala, Chilean legend. La Quintrala was told to me as being a witch mostly, but apparently was once known for her great beauty and cruelty. Chile also has an island called Chilo, where apparently magical creatures abound, and the duendes, elves, are not very nice at all. Not exactly close, but 2 hours away from me in Springwood Canyon lies a ghost town called Latuda. It used to be a mining town where miners would flock to for work in the early 1920s. Supposedly, one of the miners was killed in an accident, and his wife and newborn son were evicted from their home because the company that the husband was a part of provided the house, and since he was dead, they didn't see any reason for them to stick around. With the death of her husband and nowhere to go to provide for her child and herself, the lady went mad and drowned her child in the river. After that, she then proceeded to hang herself from the balcony of the mining office building. She was first discovered because her hanging body was slamming against the office doors because of the wind. Legend has it that the lady is said to wander the ghost town at night. The locals in the nearby town of Helper swear by the legend and always warn passerbys of never wandering about the place at night. Probably Bonyips from Australian Folklore, large ominous creatures that lurk underwater near the water's edge, and it actively will hunt and kill nearby people. Reports of it being a large dark seal-like creature. Sightings trace way back to the aboriginals of the land in their stories, with Bunyip meaning devil in their language. Reports grew by the hundreds when Europeans came to Australia, with many officials and escaped convicts all reporting independently their experience with seeing and hearing about the Bunyip. Either that, or the Min lights, which are massive orbs of light following people around in the wilderness running away and illuminating things around them, so it's not a hallucination. I hope this isn't already posted here, but my country, Chile, is large and long, with plenty of pretty scary folk tales and creepy stories. Most of its inhabitants live in Region Metropolitana, where our main city is located. Roughly a third part of our population. To the north is desert, mid-zone is Mediterranean weather, and south is forest, lakes, and cold weathers. The most present myth in our country should be the one that comes from the south, where the witches fly up in the sky, turn into a flaming heads, or take the form of a chon-chon, heads of witches that use its ears as wings, or even a tutu, A bird that is in fact a witch who pays you a visit and expects you to give him or her a drink of tea. There are a lot of myths too about St. John's Eve. I think there is near the winter solstice, and it is said that the devil appears below fig trees, and I think I've heard once that he teaches you how to play guitar if you find it. Maybe this last one I'm minding up. I can't search it right now. My most favorite myth, considering how scary I remember it was when I first heard of it, would probably be the story of Invunche, a creature that lives in Chilo, that is in fact a human malformed by witches. They have turned his head and his limbs attached to a leg to his back, and his tongue is slashed through the center, so he has a serpent-like tongue. I remember hearing that the Invunche lived in a cave eating human corpses, but Wikipedia says that he is like the guard of the witch caves, and the process of making one implies that a witch should take a firstborn, break its limbs and tongue, attach a leg at his back head with salves, and feed him up with children's meat when young and adults meat when adult. I kinda like how all these supernatural entities are specifically targeting just rich Germans and not other nationalities.